The Sentient Forest. The forest was alive in a way that couldn't be explained. From the moment Ethan stepped off the familiar trail and into the thick underbrush, a strange sensation crept up his spine. The trees, towering and ancient, seemed to breathe around him. It wasn't the gentle sway of branches in the wind. It wasn't the rustling of leaves underfoot. No, this was different. The trees seemed to watch him, their dark branches stretching outward like limbs reaching to grasp him. Each step he took, the ground beneath him shifted ever so slightly, as if the forest itself were adjusting to his presence. Ethan had been hiking through these woods for years, but today felt different. The air was too thick, the shadows too long. A dull hum, almost imperceptible, vibrated through the soil, as though the earth was alive. And the quiet, it was suffocating. There were no birds singing, no animals scurrying through the underbrush. The usual sounds of the forest were gone, replaced by something unsettling, a silence that screamed. He paused to check his map, trying to ignore the nagging feeling in the pit of his stomach. The trail should have been just ahead, but there was no sign of it. Only a deeper path, winding through the trees and vanishing into the dense undergrowth. His instincts told him to turn back, but the pull of curiosity was too strong. He pushed forward, his footsteps slow and deliberate, his senses on high alert. And then it happened. A low creak echoed through the trees like a groan, and the ground beneath him shifted. It was subtle at first, but unmistakable. A movement, an unnatural movement in the earth. Ethan froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He looked around, but the trees remained still. Yet something had changed. The air felt thicker, as if the very forest was holding its breath. Then, a sound of the sharp, dry snap came from behind him. Ethan whipped around, expecting to see some animal darting away or a branch breaking in the wind. But there was nothing. No creature, no wind. Just the trees, silent and motionless, staring at him. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. Something was watching him. He could feel it, deep in his bones. But there was no one there. A low, deep rumble reverberated through the ground again, and this time, it wasn't just the earth moving. It felt like the forest itself was shifting, its pulse quickening. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as the trees seemed to groan, their trunks twisting slightly as if stretching toward him. The branches above him bent in an unnatural way, curling inward like hands reaching out, fingers flexing. His heart raced. This wasn't normal. The realization hit him like a slap. The trees were alive, but not in the way he had always understood. They weren't just living organisms. They were aware, and they were responding to him. Ethan turned on his heels, his feet pounding against the dirt as he sprinted back toward the trail. But the trees weren't content to let him go. They moved with him, their twisted trunks creaking as their branches shifted and stretched across the path, blocking his way. The ground shifted again, this time more violently, and Ethan stumbled, falling to his knees. His breath came in sharp, panicked gasps as the weight of the realization crashed over him. The forest wasn't just alive. It was watching, waiting, and it wasn't about to let him leave. A sudden flash of movement to his left caught his attention. He turned, and there, just beyond the tree line, was something else. Something alive, but not human. It was a creature, humanoid in shape, but made entirely of plant material. Its skin was like bark, its arms and legs wrapped in vines that pulsed with life. The creature's eyes were dark, unblinking, and the air around it hummed with the same deep energy that had permeated the forest. The creature didn't move, but it didn't need to. Its presence alone was enough to stop Ethan in his tracks. Before he could react, the trees around him seemed to come alive, their branches swaying and reaching out like they were drawn to him. They creaked, bending and twisting in ways that defied nature. A low, almost imperceptible whisper seemed to come from the very ground beneath him. A language he couldn't understand, but felt deep in his soul. Ethan's heart raced as the realization struck him again. The forest wasn't just alive. It was thinking. The trees, the vines, the creatures. They were all part of something much bigger. And it wasn't here for him. It wasn't interested in him as a hiker or an explorer. It was protecting something. Something ancient. Something powerful. And now it had decided that Ethan was a threat. He pushed himself to his feet, backing away slowly, trying to think, trying to understand. His mind raced through every story he'd ever heard about strange forests, ancient rituals, and living trees. The forest wasn't just a part of nature. It was something else. Something older than time. Something that had been here long before humans had ever set foot on this land. The creature took a slow step forward, its body bending at unnatural angles as it reached toward him. The air around it grew heavier, the hum of energy almost deafening now. Ethan's chest tightened as the forest seemed to close in around him. The whispering from the trees grew louder, but this time it was clearer. A voice, deep and guttural, but not quite human, echoed in his mind. "You have disturbed us." Ethan's stomach turned, his heart pounding in his chest. He tried to speak, but his words caught in his throat. The creature didn't move, but the trees did, shifting around him, tightening their grip on the path ahead. "This land is ours." The voice in his mind grew louder, more insistent, as the trees seemed to bend even closer, their branches reaching for him like claws. Ethan could feel the weight of the forest pressing against him, a suffocating pressure that made it impossible to breathe. "You will pay the price." He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He had to get out. He had to leave before it was too late. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, he bolted, pushing through the dense underbrush, branches slapping at his face as he sprinted blindly through the forest. The creature didn't follow. The trees didn't move in pursuit. But Ethan could feel them. They were still there, watching. Their presence was a constant weight on his shoulders, a suffocating reminder that the forest was alive and conscious. His legs burned as he ran, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He didn't look back. He couldn't afford to. The deeper he went into the forest, the more the trees seemed to close in, their trunks pressing in on either side of him. The whispers were growing louder, filling his mind with their ancient, incomprehensible language. His thoughts were muddled, his sense of time fading. He stumbled again, falling to the ground, his hands slapping against the dirt. He pushed himself up, his vision swimming, and that's when he saw it. Just ahead, through the trees, a clearing, the edge of the forest, freedom. With everything he had left, Ethan stumbled toward it, his feet slipping on the wet ground. The hum from the trees grew louder, now a deafening roar in his ears. He was close. He had to make it. And then, just as he reached the clearing, everything stopped. The sound, the movement, the pressure. it all vanished in an instant. Ethan stood in the clearing, his body shaking, his breath ragged in his chest. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. And then he looked up. The sky was darkening, the forest stretching out before him, vast and endless. But it wasn't just the forest. The trees, the vines, the creatures, they were all there just beyond the clearing, watching him. They hadn't let him leave. They had allowed him to think he was escaping, only to trap him in another way. The voice came again, clear and commanding. "You are ours now." Ethan's heart stopped. The forest had claimed him, as it had claimed countless others before. The trees moved closer, the vines tightening around his limbs, and the whispers grew louder, rising to a deafening crescendo. And then, the world went dark. Thanks for listening to Zone 6 Broadcast. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales every week. You can also dive deeper into my horror worlds in the books Beyond the Campsite and Beyond the Campsite 2. A Trail Too Far, available now on Amazon worldwide.